What's up everybody, Zach Evans here again, and today we're gonna talk about the exact step-by-step 7-day plan before a performance to minimize your performance anxiety and maximize the percentage chance that you'll absolutely dominate your performance. And most importantly, we're gonna talk about how to run your piece through the Gauntlet, which basically solidifies your piece through a 7-day process so that even if there's freaking fireworks going off, you're distracted, your hands are cold, you're nervous, even through all that, you'll still be able to play your piece with a high percentage probability. All right, I'm all jacked up on coffee, ready to go. Let's get started. All right, let's get started. I actually recorded this entire video and then realized the audio recording wasn't recording. So this is round 2. You're getting the second take of this. I'm excited. Let's get started. First things first, one thing I realized is there's a difference between having your piece learned and having your piece rock solid and performance ready. And I used to not understand the difference between this. And what I would do is I would just practice my piece over and over. And I could get it in my practice room, fine, no mistakes most of the time. And I thought that meant, okay, I'm ready to go. You know, I have the piece learned, let's go play it. But that's totally different than having it rock solid. And what you want to think of it as, imagine your piece is a giant rock hanging from the ceiling. If you only practice your piece through just repeating it a bunch of times, you literally have one string on the ceiling holding up that giant rock. And maybe you can hold the weight of the rock, but when you get a performance anxiety where it's like, okay, you're nervous, your hands are a little sweaty, the keyboard, the action is a little different from the keyboard you're used to playing on, then if anybody nudges the rock, if there's a slight breeze, that string is gonna snap and your rock is gonna come tumbling down. So what we want to do by running the Gauntlet is it's basically like learning your song in a bunch of different ways. So you're attaching a bunch of strings to that rock. You're freaking duct taping that rock and duct taping it to the ceiling, putting strings on it. So even if a couple of those strings get snapped, your rock is still held up by all those other forms of memory that you've solidified it with. All right, so let's get right into the nuts and bolts of it. So let's say you have a performance Sunday. Monday through Friday, the first 5 days, you want to run your piece through Gauntlet exercises. And I'm gonna give you 5 of them right now that I use all the time. First one I use is play the entire piece hands separate. Now this sounds really easy. It's like, if I can play it hands together, hands separate should be a piece of cake. But what you realize is, especially for the left hand, a lot of times we don't actually know the left hand part. But we can kind of play it when we're playing the right hand because your muscle memory kicks in and you can kind of hear how it goes and you'll be able to play your left hand. But if you take away that right hand, a lot of times it's really hard to play the left hand alone. So what you want to do is play just left hand whole piece. Whenever you get to that part that you're kind of stuck on, you're like, wait, I literally don't know the next note. Then go back to the music and really run that left hand alone until you actually know the notes on left hand and you're not just relying on the muscle memory. Then do the same thing with the right hand. That's the first way. All right, second strategy is practicing your entire piece super slow. I stole this one from Rachmaninoff. He was said to have done this before every big performance. What you do is you turn your metronome down so slow that it's actually harder to play, right? Because you can't just, again, you can't just use your muscle memory because your fingers are used to moving at a faster speed. When you take it that slow, you really have to know exactly what notes you're playing. So play your whole piece through super slow. Remember, same thing as hands separate. If there's a part you get stuck on, go back over that part until you can play that part super slow. All right, third strategy is the added measure strategy. This is my personal favorite. I love this one. Whenever I do this, and I wake up the next day, it's like my piece is at a new level of solidified. I can like feel it in my brain. Basically what you do is you take the first measure, practice the first measure, right? Then take the first 2 measures, practice the first 2. Take the first 3, play that. Take the first 4, first 5, first 6. And each set you play 1 time until you get to the end. Now this will take a long time. And then you start at the end, you play only the last measure. Then you play the last 2 measures. You play the last 3 measures. All the way back to the beginning. Now, if you have a super long song, you might want to take it into, big sections, like the first page you do add a measure forward and backward, then the second page, something like that. But the reason this works so well is because in a performance, if you do have a slip up, what you don't want to do is be like, oh, I had a slip up. Now I have to go all the way back to the beginning of the section because I can't find my place, which happens to a lot of us. And again, it's a muscle memory trick where we think we know the piece because we have a muscle memory, But we can't start at a certain measure. We can only start at the beginning of a section because then we can flow into it and our muscle memory will take over. But by doing the added measure strategy, you actually have to start at random parts in the song where it might not be the normal chorus part, the normal melody part, and it makes it a lot harder. But then when you're in a performance, even if you do have a slip up, you'll be able to start right back on track instead of like starting the whole piece over or starting the whole section over. Now, I will say this strategy is a beast. This is very mentally challenging. It might take you 45 minutes to an hour to get through the whole piece, and then you got to do it backward. But if you run your piece through this, it will be you will feel it. It'll be so much more solid than if you're just running your piece 1,000 times, start to finish. All right, the fourth strategy is mental practice. Mental practice, I'm telling you, it's way harder than it seems. Basically, what you do is you literally sit down, you literally visualize a keyboard, and then you visualize your hands playing the actual song on the keyboard. And it seems like it should be easy, just like, oh yeah, just visualize it. For some reason, this has always been very challenging for me because you don't have any inputs, right? You don't have the sound coming in to help you find the next note. You don't have your sight to help you find the next note. You don't have your muscle memory so you actually have to know the notes inside and out. So give this one a shot. Don't get too frustrated. Even if you don't get it perfectly where you can exactly visualize every single note, it still helps a lot to really solidify your song even more. All right, and the fifth strategy is analyzing your entire piece and writing in every single chord. Now, you're going to have to know a little music theory for this. If you don't know music theory, well, first of all, learn music theory, but you might not be at that level yet. You might not be able to use this strategy. You also might want to print off a different sheet music. That way you can go to your sheet music and you can write. It's not so cluttered up if you're writing every single chord above it. But what this does is it gives you, like I said, another string holding up your rock. Maybe your brain in the middle of a performance forgets the next note, but then your brain goes, oh, well, it's just a G chord, so it's either a G, a B, or a D. Oh yeah, it's a D. And then like your brain can it's easier to get to the next note. So that's another good way to practice. All right, so those are the 5 Gauntlet exercises. There's playing hands separate, there's playing very slowly, there's the added measure strategy, there's mental practice, and there's analyzing the piece. Now, on top of that, what you want to be doing 1 to 3 times a day is performance run-throughs. Now, there's 2 types of performance run-throughs. There's live performance run-throughs and practice performance run-throughs. Live performance run-throughs is when you actually have a live audience. You might go to your church and run your piece in front of your church members or something. You might be like, Mom, come in the room and just play for your mom. Like, even that's better than nothing. It might be in front of your friends. It might be in front of your teacher and all the students. Those are performance run-throughs. Now, those are live performance run-throughs. There's also simulated performance run-throughs or practice performance run-throughs where if you can't find an audience, it's the next best thing. And what you do is you literally walk out of your practice room or wherever you're practicing and you literally simulate it. So you literally walk back in. If it's a classical recital, you actually bow, do exactly what you would do if it was the actual performance. And the important thing with any of these performance run-throughs, you have to treat it like a performance. That means if you're playing, you mess up, you can't just be like, oh, I messed up. Let me get the music out. It's like, I messed up. You have to be freaking out and you have to be like, okay, I need to find a spot. You have to actually work on, okay, I have to go back to this part and start playing again. You have to work through it and you can't stop. You have to pretend there's a real audience out there and they're not going to let you stop and be like, oh man, got to get my music back up. No, you have to just play through it. You got to figure it out and you have to work on that aspect of your playing. All right, so how does this exactly look? So let me give you an example of what you might do. So let's say you have a performance on Sunday. Monday, you sit down at the piano. Let's say your Gauntlet exercise is, analyzing your piece. So you analyze your whole piece and you do 3 performance run-throughs, simulated performance run-throughs, where you just walk out, walk back in. Tuesday comes, let's say Tuesday, you run the hands separate, run the whole piece hands separate. You find the parts that are tricky. You practice those parts hands separate. Then you do a performance run-through in front of your mom, right? Wednesday comes, and let's say Wednesday, you're doing a performance at your church. So you go to your church and you do a performance run-through live in front of your church audience. Thursday comes, you're doing the added measure strategy, so you're going forward and backward. It's going to take a long time. It might take you an hour and a half. And then you're doing three simulated performance run-throughs. Friday, maybe you do mental practice Friday, and you do a performance run-through in front of like all your brothers. Something like that could be an example of what you do. So you do one gauntlet exercise, and then you stack it on top. You do a couple performance run-throughs every day. Now, here's the thing. Saturday comes. Saturday is one day before you're going to play your piece. Think about it. You're not going to get any better at your piece with one more day of practice. This day is all about building confidence. It's not about learning your piece better. It's just about building that confidence up. So what you want to do is this whole day, all your practice is going to be slow, not the super slow practice I was talking about, just slow so it's comfortable. Put the music up there. Don't try to memorize it. Take small sections. Don't do the whole thing start to finish. Don't do any performance run-throughs. You want to just do it slow and controlled so you just build that confidence up so that you wake up the next morning, you're feeling good. All right, so now it's Sunday, the day of your piece. Obviously, get to the venue early. And what I suggest doing is doing 10 to 15 minutes of a technique warm-up, whether that's scales. If you do scales, do it in the same key as your piece. Start getting used to that key and what sharps and flats are in your piece, everything like that. Then take 15 to 45 minutes and just do the exact same thing as Saturday, where you're running through your piece slow, you're running with music, you're just building that confidence. I don't do any performance run-throughs the day of the piece, because if you do a performance run-through and you mess something up, then the entire time before you actually play, your brain's gonna be like, don't mess up that part, don't mess up that part. I hope I don't mess up that part. And you're gonna freak yourself out. So you just wanna build that confidence. I don't do any performance run-throughs. One other thing I like to say is, once you're done warming up and practicing, you're done. Don't say, oh, well, I still have 10 minutes left. I'm just gonna do it one more time. What happens is you do it one more time, and then you might mess up that one more time. And then again, your brain's gonna be thinking of, oh, I just messed up that part. Oh, I just messed up. Oh, I just messed up. And it's gonna freak yourself out. So do that 15 to 45 minutes of working through your piece slow, and then just say, I'm good. Now it's out of my control. I've practiced, my piece is ready. I've done the whole 7-day thing. Whatever happens at this point happens. Next step is, up until 10 minutes before your piece, you wanna just do nothing. It doesn't matter. At this point, what I used to do is try to pump myself up and get confident. But the problem is, I get super confident and pumped up, and then I have to maintain that confidence for an hour before I got on stage. And that's hard to do. So instead, don't do that, because you're just gonna waste out all your energy and your mental energy. So just relax and just say, whatever happens, happens, until you get to about 10 minutes before you play. This is the point where you wanna ramp up, state shift, try to get your confidence level up. Now, 10 minutes before, it's very specific to the person. In the last video, if you haven't seen that, I go very in depth on different strategies you can use to pump up your mental state. Now, so I'm not gonna go super in depth right now. I'll say what I do is I do a little meditation, slow breathing, just for a couple minutes. And then I get myself freaking jacked. I jump around. I'm like, let's freaking go. This don't faze me. I'm gonna dominate this piece. I don't say it out loud. I see it in my mind. I'm jumping around. I'm freaking shadow boxing. And it looks weird. I know it looks super weird, but it works for me. It gets me pumped up. It gets me in that cocky kind of, I'm gonna dominate this piece mindset, and helps block out the fear and reduce my anxiety. For some people that doesn't work. There's a lot of different strategies. Some people just meditate, get really calm. Anyway, I'll go more in depth in the last video on strategies for that, so I won't go into it super far. But the big thing is, don't do that till 10 minutes before. Don't an hour before get all jacked up and then have to maintain it for an hour before you go on stage. Just do it 10 minutes before. All right, that was a lot of stuff. Let's recap the whole thing. So you have a performance, let's say on a Sunday. Monday through Friday, you're gonna do one gauntlet exercise a day, and then stack on top of that a couple of performance run-throughs, whether they're live or whether they're simulated. Saturday, you don't do any performance run-throughs. All you do is that slow practice, not the super slow practice, but the slow, easy practice to build that confidence. The day of, get there early, do 15 minutes of scales, then do 15 to 45 minutes after that of your piece, just like Saturday, slow and easy, just with your music up there, build that confidence. Then you want to forget about it completely and just say what's done is done. Don't go back to practicing until about 10 minutes before you go on. And then whatever strategy you use to state shift and get yourself in the zone, 10 minutes before you want to run that. And then you play your piece and kill it. And last thing I want to say, if you have one of those situations where you have a terrible performance, look, don't beat yourself up. There is no foolproof 100% way that 100% your performance is going to be solid every time. This is a way to get your percentage as high as possible. But remember, the more performances you do, the better you will get at performing and at the skill of performing. And every piano player ever has some kind of horror story where they completely botch their piece. I have tons of them. It's just part of the process of going from a beginner piano player and getting to that advanced level. All right, thanks for watching. Remember, I have a free piano course, Become a Piano Superhuman. You can sign up. For now, it's still free. There's gonna be a link below. If you haven't watched the first video yet on performance anxiety, there's other strategies there to ramp down your anxiety and ramp up your confidence. That's all I got for you. Thanks a lot for watching. Peace out and happy practicing.